Future in Space. Brought to you by Orbital Assembly Corporation. With your hosts, Dr. Jeff Greenblatt and Eric Ward.
Hello, and welcome to Our Future in Space. In this podcast, we explore the technical, economic, social, political, and ethical considerations of moving humanity into the solar system in large numbers to work, to play, and ultimately to live. We are at an inflection point in our species' evolution where we now have the ability to sustain life off-planet and low Earth orbit pretty much indefinitely, and soon throughout the solar system. Do we merely survive or expand outward and thrive?
Orbital Assembly is leading the way in the development of artificial gravity stations so people can live, work, and thrive in space.
OAC's platforms are market category creators. They are backwards compatible with current standards, allowing for you to move from concept to production at the pace of business.
To learn more, visit orbitalassembly.com.
I'm your host, Dr. Jeff Greenblatt, the Vice President for Science and Research at Orbital Assembly. And I am joined this morning by my co-host, Eric Ward, who's the Vice President of Engineering Design. How are you doing, Eric?
I'm doing just great. I'm looking forward to this interview today. We have our guest today is Juan de Lascurain, an artist, international motivational speaker from Mexico. He's the founder of Dream Big World, a lifestyle brand which includes collaborations with brands like Kleenex and the Burj Khalifa and many others. And in 2018, he became the first Latin American artist to have his work displayed in the Burj Khalifa. His message is to inspire people to follow their dreams, focusing on 5 messages. Discover your talent, dream big, have faith, work smart, and give back. Juan, welcome to Our Future in Space.
Thank you. Good to see you guys. How are you doing? Thank you for the invitation.
Oh, you're welcome. It's our pleasure. Yeah, so, well, we have lots of questions to ask you. And first, I guess I want to ask you, where are you right now?
I'm in Dubai, one of my favorite places.
All right, yeah, maybe you can tell us why you're in Dubai in a few minutes. But
people dream big here. There's many places people dream big, but here they also dream big. So anyway, it's a good place.
That's very exciting. Well, okay, so we'd like to first hear about your company, Dream Big World, what it does and how it got started. I know that there's quite a story to tell, so go ahead.
Yeah, it's actually quite an interesting story. So Dream Big World is a lifestyle brand. Our purpose is to inspire and help people accomplish their dreams. But my background was always in sports. I was a tennis player and then triathlete, never painted a thing in my life. Until 2008, I was living in Los Angeles, coaching tennis in Beverly Hills. And one day, just out of the blue, I was at a friend's house. There was a napkin and a Sharpie, and I made a doodle. I was bored, and I was just making, little circles and flowers. And a lady saw the doodle, and she asked me if I was an artist, and I said, no. I laughed. I'm like, I'm not an artist. I've always been an athlete. I had studied business in college. But she told me, she's like, you need to be an artist. And I was like, okay, like, what do I do? She said, those doodles make them bigger. And so I left and I forgot about it, but my little voice inside didn't forget about it. And so it was all the time like, paint, and you need to be an artist. And so one day I went to a gallery. I mean, not a gallery, an art shop, to buy material, and I realized I needed like $500, to buy a canvas and paint, and I'm like, nah, forget it. I'm not gonna spend that much money right now. So I went and I bought a piece of wood at a Home Depot. It was like $3, and then I went to Walmart and I bought acrylic paint, $9, and 6 months later I had finished my first painting. So that's how I got into the art world. So I did not start with a commercial brand. It was just me as an artist, doing gallery type art. I call it my real art, real because it's, acrylic and canvas. Then one day after I had 4 paintings, I picked the most expensive gallery on Rodeo Drive. And I went with one of my paintings, just me, and I walked in and I could see this guy, he wasn't gonna pay much attention, but I went and I said, hey, I'm an artist. I want to do an exhibition, would you? And he looked at me like, okay, like, how long have you been painting? And I'm like, 1 year. And he was like, oh, keep on painting. So I left and I said, I don't care, I'll keep on painting. And so I kept on painting, which eventually that turned through a series of events that also turned into my commercial brand, which today it's Dream Big World. And I do a lot of work around the world.
Wow. Okay. Well, and then I also know that you spent quite a bit of time early in your company's history in a Starbucks in Mexico City. Is that right?
Yeah. So when I met a guy also after I had been painting for a while. Then I painted my jeans. So everywhere I went, people always commented on my hand painted jeans. And actually, some people start ordering. They were like, hey, if you paint them, I'll give you, how much would you charge me to paint for me, a pair? And then one day I met a guy who asked me if I had ever done graphic design. So people can see that's my first pair of hand-painted jeans. So many people stopped me with those jeans. I mean, like it was crazy when I started. At the same time, I had a camera. There's a camera that I'm grabbing there. At the same time, I had started a TV show because I had met a guy who owned a Hispanic nonprofit TV channel, and it's another crazy story. But he offered me 30 minutes of free airtime Saturday mornings to do a TV show. So that happened before I discovered my talent to paint. And so I was doing this show, and it was about inspiring youth to follow their dreams. So really, that was the beginning of the brand, because it was called Dream Big, and I was just interviewing a lot of big celebrities. And then I discovered the talent to paint. And then the Starbucks story comes in 2011. So started 2008 painting. People were like, artists don't make money. What are you doing? You should focus. They thought I was like, doing too many things. And then, the TV show for free, and then painting, they were like, you're not going to make any money. So by 2011, I had run out of money. They were right, but they were not right that artists, didn't make money forever. So 2011, I run out of money. So I had a friend in Mexico City who called me, and she was like, hey, how's it going? I'm like, well, I'm living in my brother's couch. I have $50 in my pocket, but I have my vision. This is what I'm going to do. And she said, well, come to Mexico. And I was like, I don't have money to even, pay for the air ticket. And she said, no, don't worry, I'll pay for the ticket. So I went to Mexico, landed there. And when I landed, I'm like, I'm going to stay here. But I was staying with my friend just for 2 weeks. And then after that, I was like, okay, I can't stay here. So I went to an uncle of mine who has, a lot of money. And I thought he was going to invest in my brand. So I asked him, hey, this is my plan. Would you invest? He said, no. I said, okay. I said, can I stay in your house for a couple of weeks? And he said, no, go back to LA. And I was like, I'm not going back to LA. So I left his house and I went to a Starbucks, which was close to his house. And I had a ticket to go back to LA. But, in LA, I was living in my brother's couch. I was working at an Apple store part-time, and I was doing construction work part-time. And so I'm like, no, I'm not going back. So I went and I found a place to live at a youth hostel, downtown Mexico City. It was, I was paying $5 a night. It was one room with 12 bunk beds. And every day I would go to another Starbucks in the nicest part of Mexico City. And there I met a lady one day who, she had a factory, a notebook factory. And we just started talking. And there you can see in that photo, there's two guys with the white shirts. I used to sit across from there where the two girls are. And I would talk to anyone that, sat next to me. And so this lady was like, hey, your designs are amazing. You should do some notebooks, with your designs. And so I said, she said, I can make them for you. I said, oh, how much are they? She told me the price. And so I had enough money to buy her 10 notebooks with my designs. So 2 weeks later, she gives me the notebooks. And so I'm like, where am I going to sell them now? I'm not going to stand on the street and just like sell them. So I thought, I'll just sit in the Starbucks, put the little notebooks on the table, and I just make conversation with people. And that's what I did, By the time people ask me what I did, I show them the notebooks, and people start, they start buying the notebooks from me there in the Starbucks. So that was, a couple of months. Then I met the manager of that Starbucks, and I gave her the idea if I could sell the notebooks in the counter, where people paid, because so many people went to that Starbucks. First, she said, no, you need to go to corporate. Eventually, I convinced her, and she let me sell the notebooks in the counter. She let me put my art on the wall. Actually, that photo you had of the Starbucks, by that time, my art was already hanged in all the walls of the Starbucks. Yeah, so you see,
Beautiful.
that was, all the walls are covered with my art. By 2012, that Starbucks was my first gallery, little store, and my office. I was there as soon as they opened in the morning, and I was the last one to leave. And then I was also organizing an event for her every Friday. It was called the Dream Big event, and I would bring in, inspiring people. I would give like a 15-minute talk. I would bring artists to sing, and she really enjoyed it, because I was bringing people in. People liked my art. I was selling, and really from that Starbucks, that's where my brand started.
Wow. What a great story. I wonder how many, how many brands started in a Starbucks like yours. I feel it's a pretty uncommon story. But
yeah, thank God that Starbucks has a policy that you don't have to buy to sit there.
Yeah.
Honestly, there's something about that. There's not many places you can just go and sit.
Yeah.
Within 3 minutes, somebody's gonna come and be like, "Can I help you?" Like, are you just gonna sit? And I think Starbucks is probably one of the few retail outlets that lets you do that. And for me, because some days I didn't even have money, to buy a coffee. So yeah.
Right. Yeah.
That's
So,
wonderful.
all right. Well, so full circle. So here we are. You're in Dubai. You want to tell people why you're in Dubai right now?
Ideas are powerful things. Ideas drive us to broaden our minds and help us seek truth about the universe around us. We are Rogue Space Systems. Ideas above.
Yeah, so we just signed a letter of intent with Orbital Assembly to start working on this collaboration partnership. When the Orbital Assembly, the first hotel in space opens up in space, we will have the first Dream Big World and the first retail store in space. So that's really, really exciting. And in the meantime, we are planning to start developing. So Dream Big World obviously has evolved, it has grown. Right now we're working on opening our first phygital store. So, physical and digital. Also the Dream Big World metaverse. So we are also going to start developing experiences, between Dream Big World and Orbital Assembly in the metaverse and in our physical stores. Which it will start in 2023. And today we were at GITEX, which is a big one of the largest technology events in the world, and it was great. We were able to share. Rhonda and I, we had a panel, and we spoke. She spoke obviously about what Orbital Assembly is doing, and all the process and everything you guys are doing to make your dream a reality. And then we signed this letter of intent, which it's amazing. 10 years ago, I always tell people, 10 years ago I was living at a youth hostel, and today my art has been shown in the Burj Khalifa tallest building in the world. Now I'm working with a leading space tourism company. It's great.
Yeah.
Can't complain.
It really kind of exemplifies like the spirit of your company too, right?
Dream big, for sure.
Right.
Yeah, I always tell people I could not call it Dream Big and then just have a little store in the corner of my neighborhood. That's for me. I'm not putting down people that just have a little store in the corner. But for me, I really believe that if you have a dream, if you have a vision, if you have faith, in yourself, and there's also miracles that happen along the way. Obviously, it's not like you just made it on your own. There's a lot of miracles that happen along the way too. But if you're open and you're flexible and you put all these ingredients, if other people have done amazing things, like, that's what I always think about myself. Like, if other people have done it, I mean, I can do it,
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's very inspiring. It's
That's me on my way to the youth hostel. That's all I had back then. Was that bag.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, $50 in your pocket, you mentioned, but you had that vision, and yeah, I really love it that you talk about dreaming big, but you live it as well, right? You're an example of that, and I can really respect that in a way, right? Like there are a lot of people who think about that, but I think in the space industry especially, we need people who dream big and work hard to make those dreams a reality. So I actually had
hard work is or I also call it work smart, but in the end, it's you gotta get up every day and do it. Like, nobody's gonna do it for you. I feel like a lot of people are just waiting for somebody to just, like, with a magic band and just make everything just pop up, but it doesn't happen that way. For me, what helped me a lot was my background as an athlete. If you don't go out and run, nobody's going to run for you. And if you don't go out and play tennis every day, it doesn't matter who comes with the magic.
Yeah, it's all you. I mean, it's your body. You have to perform. And I guess it's the same with this. You got to build your business. It's yours. So, right?
Yeah.
Actually, I wanted to ask you about that. So you mentioned this, physical retail store, and obviously this partnership with OAC, and first store in space. But a lot of the things we've talked about involve this sort of hybrid physical and digital space and store that you're building. And I'd like you to talk a little bit about that. I think it's really interesting.
Yeah, so before the pandemic, I was thinking, because I work with brands and collaborations where they would use my designs on their products, so it was like licensing. Then I started designing exclusively for like the Burj Khalifa, and then developing merchandising, just physical merchandising. Then I thought my next step was to open just a retail store, typical retail store, where I could sell my caps, my T-shirts, things that I was doing. And I almost opened one before the pandemic. Actually, I was mad when it didn't happen. I was like a little bit frustrated. I'm like, I was almost going to open it. I didn't even know that the pandemic was coming, but I always, I understand the theory about things happen for a reason, but when things happen and go the opposite way that you think they should happen, you don't always, put it into practice. So. I didn't open the store. Then the pandemic came, and I'm like, okay, thank God I didn't open the store. And so during the pandemic, I spent quite a bit of time, starting to learn about, digital technologies, NFTs. It wasn't like, every day. So it was like somebody would send me a message, and they were like, hey, are you doing NFTs? And I'm like, no, not yet. And I would look into it, but then I would get so busy, and then forget about it. It was not until about a year ago that my mom was at a Starbucks, and there was a guy next to her who was trying to make conversation with her. And my mom told me, like, she didn't want to talk to anyone that day, but this guy kept like wanting to talk to her. Eventually my mom said hi, and they started talking. And this guy, like an expert in metaverse, and for many years he had been studying, and he has been investing in crypto. And so my mom, they exchanged contact, and she told him a little bit about myself and Dream Big World. And he told my mom that he wanted to meet me. So a few weeks later, I met him. And as soon as I showed him what I was doing, he said, you need to do metaverse, NFTs, digital fashion. I mean, this whole concept. And then for the next 4 months, he every day sent me links of things he was reading, like on Forbes or Wire magazine, Fast Company. everything he was reading about crypto, metaverse, and all of that, he would send me links every day for about 3 months. And so really that was like it was a sign, so really those 3 months I just started, understanding more how it worked. And after those 3 months, I put together, what now will become the model for the retail and digital store. That what we're going to have is we're going to have obviously the physical, merchandise and the collaborations that we're doing, but we'll also have digital experiences. So, we'll have like a virtual reality experience where people would put in the goggles, and they could go into the Dream Big World metaverse, which will have different experiences within it, and eventually they will also be able to go to the space hotel. And also, that's where the partnership comes in. Also, this I'm talking just metaverse, right now digitally. I'm also working, with my own designs to turn them into NFTs, so people could buy NFTs from within our physical store in the metaverse, and then tie them into the physical merchandising, digital fashion, all of that. And really, it was because, I probably would have done it, but maybe later. But I feel like, like his name is Steve, he was like sent to really be like, you need to do this now, and it's really like the best time now because it's it's starting.
Yeah, that's right. You're on the ground floor.
Yeah, and when you really you really need to study, at least for myself, because it was like I knew about it, I heard about it, there was like this hype, but once you really start like going to school, then you're like, oh wow, like I can put it into practice in this area, and then you can really start building something with it and not just be another artist just selling NFTs.
Right. Well, definitely putting a presence on the Pioneer Station is going to distinguish you from pretty much every other artist. If you can just explain briefly to our listeners what it is you're going to have on Pioneer Station eventually, that would be really interesting.
Yeah, so that would be the first retail store in space, and then the idea is to also connect, and develop experiences between space and the physical world. So maybe you are in our store in Dubai, in our physical store, and you can go into this world that we can transport you digitally to the space station, but actually maybe the things you see are real, but you are within the digital world. And obviously within the retail store in the station, obviously you'll be able to buy merchandise, like physical merchandise, but also all the digital aspects of it as well. So that to me is really exciting, because then you're linking the physical, the digital, and space. I don't know what other world you can link.
Yeah, you're kind of weaving it all together, and even if you're not in space, you can be in space virtually, like you're saying, or if you're up in space, you can also be on the ground and have some digital or some physical assets that you can make a transaction with, even if it's not actually there. So I think this is really sort of paving the way for what we're going to be doing commercially as we move out into the solar system. Because you're not going to have the ability to have a storeroom with all the stuff, necessarily on a spacecraft. So,
yeah, it's exciting. I mean, and I'm sure there will be more ideas and components to it as things progress.
Absolutely.
So what got you, Juan? What got you interested in space in the first place? I can see that there's this vision of maybe connecting these different areas, but why space in a way?
Ever since I started hearing I don't know which one was the first. It feels like the Virgin Galactic or the trips to space. This is a while back. They were like, hey, get on the list, and even back then I sent my name to be on the list. I didn't even know if I was gonna have the money to go or not, but I send it, and I was like, wow, like it'd be so cool to go to space. And then, the more I kept hearing, and then one day actually, honestly, I don't remember if I typed space tourism or what, but Orbital Assembly came up. And I went in and I saw that you guys were running an art contest. Obviously, I read, more about what you guys were doing about the space hotel. I'm like, wow, that's really, really cool. And then I saw this art contest and I'm like, I'm also going to do, a design and submit it. And then to my surprise, I won the contest. I'm like, wow, this is cool. So I'm going to find out like who are the, people behind it now that I won. And so, and then, from there, I'm like, obviously I had, a little more idea like, hey, obviously it'd be so cool to, open a store, in space. And I mean, why space? I think, humans, we're always, the reason why we've evolved is obviously because our curiosity, obviously dreaming and dreams are part of our lives. If we don't dream, we die, and so I believe dreams fuel our passions, is the fuel what keeps us going. It's the fuel what makes us be able to overcome obstacles. And so, and like we said in the beginning, if it's called dream big, we can't stay just on Earth. We gotta go to space and beyond.
Yeah, we love that. Yep. Couldn't agree more. I mean, that's our big vision as well, is to spread out into the solar system and eventually beyond. Why limit ourselves to one planet when we have the technology and the resources to do more? We should. Yeah.
I read this book by, I think it was Isaac Asimov, a shorter story, some years ago that that's kind of the premise of the book. That spoiler alert if you haven't read it, and sorry I don't remember the name. Maybe we'll put a link to it in the description of the video. But the humanity had kind of gained this ability to travel through time, and they policed the technological expansion, and ended up these time travelers would kill space flight every time it came up.
Oh no!
And ended up kind of killing off humanity. They didn't realize that. And it's that kind of thing that if you're not dreaming big, if you're not, thinking about what's out there and trying to explore and have these dreams and aspirations, that that you die. I think that's a really kind of succinct way to say that. And I think a lot of us kind of agree with that summary, that we've got to keep dreaming and pushing and exploring and getting out there. So I think there's a lot of crossover for sure.
No, I think there's a lot of people that are alive but dead. Because they just do the same thing over and over again. A lot of them are not happy because they just go to work to pay bills. And yeah, obviously we all have to pay bills, and you got to figure out how to do that. But also I think it's easier when you have like for me, when I had nothing. At one point all I had to pay was my cell phone, but then I had to find a place to live, but when you have a dream and a vision, and then it's easier. Life becomes easier, even though there's bigger obstacles, because your passion is like that fuel. When you do something. I interviewed one time this Olympic swimmer, and he had won a few gold medals, and he was like, when you do something for a long, he kept going, long time. He said, you'll be amazed where your life ends up. Doing that same thing until you get the results you want. Sometimes it could be long, really a long time. For me, I started the TV show 2004. It's been 18 years. But from the moment I started the TV show, I knew that my goal was to inspire people to follow their dreams, and I've never deviated from that goal, and it's just I've been adding, as I found my talents, I've been adding different things that I know I'm good at, whether it's speaking or now art or design, and so I've just been adding to my same mission, but my passion has never, it's always there. So it's been very easy. Even when I lived at a youth hostel, with 20 strangers, I had no problem getting up at 5:30, in the morning to get out of there to go to Starbucks and sell my 10 notebooks, and then that just gets bigger. From 10 notebooks, it went to 20, and then I signed my first license. It was actually a notebook company, and they sold thousands of notebooks that year. So it just, I think people give up too soon. There's Kleenex, how many boxes of Kleenex.
I'd much rather buy a box that looks like that anyway.
Yeah. So anyway, clean. I mean, there's in Mexico City, not Mexico City, in all of Mexico, most people that I show that photo, they're like, "Oh, I have one in my house," or "I've seen it," or and it started with 10 notebooks, and if I quit it, halfway along the way, or I would have never gotten, to where I am today. And today, I'm obviously I'm not gonna quit, but from today, it's like it gets bigger, and even your vision gets bigger, and your faith gets bigger too.
Yeah, it's pretty much unlimited. Well, we're really delighted to have had you. Thank you so much for sharing your vision with us, and we're really excited to see this relationship develop and to have the first retail store on Orbit, and from where it goes from there. Is there anything else you'd like to share with the listeners before we go?
No, just the 5 things that I always share with everything I do is, discover your talent. I also feel like there's a lot of people that are working really hard at things they're not good at. So for me, the basic thing in life is discover your talent, your passion, dream big, have faith, work smart, and give back. It's like my 5 things that I followed all my life. And it's worked for me, and like I said, I know both sides of the going, being with nothing and then having everything, and so it works, when you put it into practice. And then there's a phrase that I wrote when I had nothing that has also been quite inspiring for me and for people. It says, it doesn't matter where you come from or how much money you have. If you have faith, a dream, and you work hard, you can accomplish anything. And they can also, check out Dream Big World and social media, Juan de Lascurain, and they can check out more of what we're doing.
Yeah, definitely.
Excellent.
We'll be putting links to those.
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Juan, for joining us. We really appreciate it. And for all the listeners out there, if you have any suggestions for future topics, people you'd like us to interview, or just want to get connected, as usual, you can find us on Twitter at Our Future Space, or Facebook at Our Future in Space. And of course, send us an email, ourfutureinspace@orbitalassembly.com. So thank you guys all for listening. And Juan, thank you for coming.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right. And if you like what Orbital Assembly is doing and would like to find ways to get more involved, feel free to reach out to us at info@orbitalassembly.com. Thanks for listening.
This program represents the personal opinions of the hosts and their guests. The content, opinions, and views do not necessarily represent the views and opinions of Orbital Assembly Corporation, nor the organizations with which any of the program participants may be affiliated. The mere appearance or promotion of this program does not constitute an endorsement by Orbital Assembly Corporation or its affiliates. Our Future in Space. Copyright 2022, Orbital Assembly Corporation. Hosts, Dr. Jeff Greenblatt and Eric Ward. Audio and video production by Tim Alatorre. Musical theme, The Last Day by Dark Blue Studio.